Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to Molten Modular. Today, we're caressing some stars. The Caress of Stars from Arcane Devices is a 4-channel sequencer that has this rather groovy touch strip that goes the entire width of its very, very wide 1U module. You use a touch strip to enter to notes, gates, data, parameters, all sorts of changes and bits and pieces are involved in that very fingerable strip of magic. You can kick out notes, you can kick out steps, you can kick out modulation if you wish. You can scale it, range it, step it, clear it, mute it, and other things too. It is perhaps a uniquely playable sequencer because it just invites you in to get your fingers in. Let me just give you the quickest of demos. I'm going to use some drums here in order to give me a little bit of sort of timing information. Yeah, are you with me? Something a little bit like that. What I'm really enjoying about the Caress of Stars is how it makes me sound very musical. It's pulling out of me sort of melodies and ideas that you don't perhaps often find if you're using a knob-based sequencer, because there are a few approaches to sequencing. And this one is very sort of keyboard-like, I suppose. It's about playing notes, both pitch and gates, all at the same time, potentially, although not necessarily. So instead of going to a step and setting a note, although you can do that, you're more likely just to throw stuff in, throw ideas about the place, and then enjoy the ride as the melody emerges, and you can then move on to the next channel and the next channel and build upon it. It can loop and overdub really nicely. It's very, very easy to clear something and start again, or to return to where you were the last time you saved it. It has a lot of buttons to play with in this super wide module and 3 rows of LEDs to let you know what's going on. It is possible to get lost. It's possible to forget your finger combinations of buttons and bits and pieces and to mess the entire thing up. But with a bit of practice, a bit of perseverance, it becomes a really intuitive and beautiful little melody machine. It could be a modulation machine. It could be a drum machine. I'm just saying that the melodies are the one thing that I've particularly enjoyed. The Caress of Stars is currently on Indiegogo. Arcane Devices are looking for a little bit of investment to get their first production line going and to get the Caress of Stars out there. So this is kind of a almost completely finished prototype with the latest firmware, which is pretty darn good, I have to say. But there are more things to come. But I will show you, take you through, bring you in just the basics, the bits and pieces, the things that I like, and let's see if we can stumble through what makes this a really nice little sequencer. So here we are. This is the fella. It's very, very colourful, very touchable. You want to be pressing things and things going on, but it's also easy to get yourself in a bit of a muddle because you tend to think of these as step buttons, which they can be in certain situations, but they're also function buttons. And getting a grip exactly on what mode you're in and whether you're in play mode or edit mode and those sorts of things become quite vital in getting the best out of this module and not running into little areas of frustration. So a little bit of learning, and I confess, still learning this. So you'll probably see me trip up from time to time. But let's clear all this out and start with the basics. So your basics are that you have a channel, 4 channels, 1, 2, 3, 4 along here on these tiny little buttons. And it can be CV or gate. So at the moment, I believe it's patched in as CV. And that is obviously scaled. And there's a scale button here where you can set what that is. There's currently only 3 scales included in the module at the moment. They are probably going to introduce more, but you've got essentially a chromatic one, which is when everything is lit. You've got a minor one, which is when I think you've got a couple of pairs, and then you've got a pentatonic. I think that's it. That's more or less it. And so, or you can just clear that off completely and have nothing. Oops. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't get out of the mode, and so I already messed it up. So you can clear the scale, come out of scale, and then I've got a perfect trombone. Of control voltage, which of course you could use for modulation rather than notes. Now you may also notice that the lights, the blue lights, are only going up halfway. That's because I've changed the range of this. You can have it set to 4 octaves or to 2 octaves, 3 octaves, 1 octave, whatever you like, because it can get a little bit tight in there. If you've got it at full range, let me show you that. If I put it up to full range, then come out. So that's great, but trying to get individual notes can be a bit of a struggle. If I scale it, so there's a whole octave just in that space. There it is. You've got octave markers here, look. But if I go back to scale and just scale that just to 2 octaves, I find that gives me a better range. And I can find those notes a bit easier. So to create a sequence, once you've selected your scale, if that's what you want, then you can either use its internal clock or you can send it something from somewhere else and it will rotate round and you can add notes. So if I just set it running, at the moment, I've only got 2 notes. That's probably because I set something somewhere else. So let's go and try to put that back to all 16 notes. There we go. So your middle line of LEDs is showing you which step is currently active. The top line of LEDs shows you the data that you're putting in. The bottom line is for all of these function bits and pieces. So to add notes, I just simply put it in. just deliciously simple. I love that. And of course I can overdo it if I wish. But it was better before, I think. If you don't like it, just hit clear and it's gone, which is really good. I find on lots of other sequences that's quite a difficult thing to do often, and requires all sorts of button presses and menus just to clear the thing. So now I can do something else again. Now, in order to introduce gates into this to fire an envelope or something like that, I can go to a separate channel. So I go to channel 2, I hold gate and press channel 2 in order to change its mode from either CV or gate. I then do the same as I do with a CV channel and just tap it in on the strip. And this is running to an envelope just over here, which is affecting the filter. I can remove them by just holding nothing and it will go through. I left one there. So it's very easy to add and remove steps. It doesn't actually matter where you're pressing. I mean, there's perhaps an idea in there where you could be adding velocity, but that's not something that's available within this. Just something that's occurred to me that might be a nice thing to add. And you're going to be thinking, well, surely you can use these step buttons down here in order to add steps. And you'd think you could. But you can't. At least you can't in normal mode. And what I've done is accidentally recalled a previously saved sequence. And this is, I mean, it's interesting that I did that in that way because I wasn't really intending to. And it's a little bit of the thing that you have to work around, you have to start understanding, is that it's possible to accidentally mess it up if you press the wrong button. And that's perhaps one of the slight downsides of Caress of Stars until you really master what the interface is doing. Because you've got steps going through, you're putting them in here, but you are drawn towards these buttons because it seems so obvious to use those as steps. Now, of course, you can. You just need to be in step mode first. So, I've now ruined everything. So, let's go back. And well, it gives us an opportunity to re-record that. So that's clear channel 1, clear channel 2, clear channel 3 and 4. We'll get back to that in a minute. So let's run that back through again. Oh, I'm back to good grief. So there, let's go put that back like that. Come out of that. Scale is good. In fact, I'm going to save all of this now, so that's what we come back to next time. So if I want to put something in, I can do so. Go to channel 2, it's on gate. Now what were we talking about? We were talking about altering steps. So if we go into step mode, which is this is flashing now, I should be able to just turn them on and off like so. Now I can also do this above the step on the touch strip. And And in some ways it's better to use the touch strip, because that means that forces you to always focus on the touch strip rather than using the buttons and then, you know, inadvertently, accidentally pressing something you shouldn't. But with step flashing, you have full control over what the steps are doing. Also in step mode, you can swipe across in order to activate all steps or take them all out. There is another experimental mode, which is if you press alternative and then step. I need to come out first. Alternative, step. I can now throw in kind of like Euclidean rhythms by dragging. So if I drag in, a pattern starts to appear. Do you see? Lovely. Now you can also tie two channels together to make this a bit easier. I mean, I quite like, on the whole, separating my melody from my gates, because it allows me to sort of generate different rhythms using gates while the melody is still doing its thing, and it allows me to sort of pick out different parts of the melody. It's just something that I like to do. But you can put it all together. So if I go back to channel 1, see, I need to come out first, so nothing's flashing. Channel 1. Now if I hold gate and press channel 1, it will come gate mode. If I press it again, it ties channels 1 and 2. So now I have a note and a gate happening at the same time. It's cleared the sequence for me because I've changed the mode of the channel. So now it should work as if you're pressing a key on a keyboard, yeah? Ah, you see, now that's interesting, because the channel reset when I changed its mode, it also lost its scale. So it's something you have to go back in and do. Now this is interesting because there's many things within Caress of Stars that happen that when you set something up, it doesn't apply itself to what's already there. It's there ready for the next thing you do. So for scales, I can add a scale, but it's going to have no effect on the current notes. So instead I have to come back out of that. I could clear it and then put something else in. Now this is what I'd also got set up on channels 3 and 4 when I'm running the qubit surface over here. Just going to check that I've got a scale on. Yes, I do. And I can add something similar over there. Now you may notice that channels 3 and 4 are running slower, and they've also got 2 pages happening over here, because in fact you can push Caress of Stars out to 64 notes, 4 pages of 16 notes. And you can also divide the time. So if I go to divide here, you've got different clock divisions. They're all, you see how they're flashing in different ways? So we're just selecting a half time here for the surface. Whereas for the sort of the baseline, if you like, it's not very baseline-y. That's using the original timing. Now you can edit steps while it's playing back. It's a bit of a challenge, but let's give it a go. You press step. I don't know that I want to. So the current selected step, I believe, There we go. You can use these prior and next buttons here to step through your sequence. Now what you can't do is sort of hear that note or audition that note as you go through. But I can see roughly what that is because it's showing me how big that is. And as the cycle comes around, I can see what note it is. So I can change this note just by tapping in, and it's going to change this note here. And then it moves automatically onto the next note. And what it's going to do at this point, I'm just going to mute channels 3 and 4. So we can hear exactly what's going on. So I'm in step mode. This note here, I'm going to put that up nice and high so you can hear the change, yeah? And it automatically goes to the next one because it's just assuming you wanting to program this in sort of a step mode. So you can very quickly enter a step sequence directly in. It's creating a gate for every step that I've added something because I'm in this combined mode here of 1 and 2. And so it just continues and continues and continues. You can do all this in stop mode as well. You don't have to have it playing around, and that does give you the opportunity, perhaps, to hear each note as you put it in. So because I'm in combined mode, it's working slightly differently. So rather than having the access to the steps as I had on the strip or on the buttons, if you're using a purely gated channel, on this I'm having to use the clear button here to clear the note that I've selected. So I go around with my prior and next buttons, and if I want to kill a step, I hit clear and it's gone. Really nice, really nice. I like the different modes. Getting my head around exactly what's happening and how they differ is a little bit challenging because I always make the assumption I'm in step mode so I can take steps on and off. But I'm in a combined mode here, so step mode actually works differently, but it's more elegant because it allows you to be a little bit more precise about what you're doing and to think about it a bit more. That's quite interesting. If I come out, just going to throw in some more notes. Another mode we've got down here is loop. So if you go into loop mode, currently it's looping the entire 16 steps. But you can just draw in where you want that to loop, and it will. Really nice. Now loop is also where we add more pages. So if I wanted to add a page to this, I can't get this right. Which way round do I press it? It's home plus alternative. So home, press alternative, it adds a page in. Now what's interesting is that it also copies the sequence to that page. So you've got your first 16 notes going round, and now it's playing page 2. Is playing the same sequence. So rather than just giving you space or a gap, it's allowing you to set this up kind of on the fly without losing what you're doing. So I can then just throw in other notes over the top to make it into this longer sequence. I can go back into loop and add 2 more pages, and it will do the same thing again. It will copy the whole lot across. Or I could clear it I need to go out of there. I can clear it. And now I've got a whole 64 steps to play with. If I bring in a little bit of rhythm, that might help me understand what the heck's going on. There is slide in there. I don't fully understand the slide thing. It seems to record it when you're using combined mode. It'll record slides between notes. I mean, obviously it's also doing ties and things like that as well if you hold a note down and things like that. It will tie those notes together. So it also puts in this slide. It doesn't seem to do that when you're in just CV mode. So there's the tie. It doesn't do it in CV mode by itself. It always steps, which is interesting. But like I say, it's usually down to the fudginess of my fingers as to whether a slide happens or not, but I'm sure you could do it on purpose if that's the sort of thing that you like. I mean, one thing you can do is that it currently has a sort of a single save ability. It's going to have slots for saving at some point with an additional firmware. So at the moment you've just got save and recall. So if I save this, it's now held in its memory or whatever. I could at this point improvise over the top and then come back to the sequence. See, that might be easier if I did it in a single 16 thing. But this is quite nice. Anyway, let's go back to loop, home, put it back to a single page. Got that, including the weird thing at the end. So a bit like that. Now, that's not, I mean, it's not kind of perfect. Now, the manual just talk about a way to play over the top without affecting the sequence underneath, but I've never quite got that to work. And I think what they mean is that you can play it when it's stopped. As if I pull this out. I can then put that back in and the sequence is still there. Except for perhaps the step that I stopped on. But in order to sort of improvise over the top while it's playing, I think would be a really good feature or a function if I can work out exactly how to make that work, or perhaps it's something that they need to build into the firmware. Because while this works, the sequence behind, as it's repeating, does tend to bleed through a little bit if you've not got your finger on the thing, if you're with me. But it's a totally workable way of doing things. You've just got to keep your finger on the strip so that those other notes don't come through. Got to do something about this over here. There we go. I'm going to go back to my channel 3 and 4 again. That's still on 2 pages. What did I do with it? Oh, I muted it. Now, mute is an interesting thing. so nice. It's just quite a beautiful thing. It pulls beauty out of me. That's what I like about it. It makes me look rather nice. Right, let's do something else. Let's turn it into a drum machine, and then I'll show you the mutes. Maybe that's a good thing to do. Okay, so I've now got all 4 channels set up to be gates. Now, there's also an option to change the gate width, the gate length, whatever it is you want to call it, within this same function. But we're just triggering percussion, so I'm not going to worry about that for now. So I've got kick drum, snare, closed, and open. So if we get these running, I could do this in a clever step way, because they're gates. I could do that, and then I could just put in a kick drum like that, I think. Couldn't I? Yeah, I could do that. Then I have to exit. I don't want to press channel 2, otherwise that just turns on a step. Channel 2 turns on steps. I could put those in using the top line. Not that it matters, it's just whatever it is that you want to do. If I go to exit that 3, I can go alternative step and then draw in a bunch of hi-hats. I'm getting clever now. Coming back out, channel 4. This is the open hi-hat, so I'm going to stick that in step somewhere like that and somewhere like that. And with a bit of luck, that's all sounding lovely. Yeah, I really messed up those snares, didn't I? So I'll come out of that, come back into channel 2. So what I did is I assumed I was in step mode, and I've added a couple of extra snares, which is not really what I wanted to do. But it's fine. If I now go into step mode, I can take those 2 out and that one out. Okay, it's looking a bit better. Obviously I've got 64 steps I could be using, very simply. Now, the whole point of doing this was to show you the mute modes. So if we go into mute mode, what I can do is I can like set up a group. So if I want to turn both of those hi-hats off, for instance, I can set those up. So they're ready to mute when I press a mute. So they're now gone. I can press mute again and it will do nothing. It'll do nothing until I've set up what it is I want to do. So I could actually enable those 2 to be muted and bring those 2 back in. Like that. It swaps them, which is quite nice. I want to bring the kick back in, I press it, press mute, and it's back in. Same for the snare. Now you can also hold the mute button and just mute what you want to mute. Like so. But in mute mode, this ability to turn certain things off on the touch of a button is really quite nice. I think, I'm pretty sure, that is about it so far. Now there are more things to come, like probability, save slots and other bits and pieces that they are working on the firmware in order to introduce those. But as it is currently, it's a nice, neat, versatile, very playable little sequencer. So there you have it, the caress of stars. What a delightful little machine. It really has brought sort of light and joyfulness to my rack of late. I've really enjoyed playing with it. It does absolutely trip you up. You can. I have fallen over many times, and in desperate places where you've just got everything going, you think you've just got this, and then I accidentally hit the recall and it's all disappeared. Now, things like that will be sorted out with save slots and firmware updates where I can actually save stuff better and recall it a bit more intentionally. And also it's just a matter of getting the hang of it. To know that if something is flashing, then you're going to need to hit the home button in order to come out of it before you try to do another thing. Otherwise, you're going to end up flat on your face, potentially. I like the differences between things, how the modes are different. I like how you can have a gate mode, which gives you all of that proper buttony step stuff, and a combined mode which is slightly more interesting and lets you work differently in order to either put in step sequences or to just go to town on the live performance. I'm getting the hang of where I need to be to do the different things, which is great. All the channels are very independent, so you can have them on independent timings and lengths and such like. And I really like the elegance of the mute system. Just simple things. I'm a simple person. I like and am pleased by little simple functions that do something slightly different. There are other bits and pieces, like for instance using the step next and prior buttons. You can actually move the sequence about as it's playing back, so you're changing what note is actually playing, and you can prior yourself backwards in the sequence if you so wish, because there aren't, as far as I know, any other sort of sequence mode. There's no like random mode or forwards and backwards or anything like that. It just plays through. But that does give you a little bit of area to play. But again, it's the sort of thing that you imagine would appear in a firmware update at some point. There are two actual jack sockets here, patch sockets, that are not being used, that I think are probably going to be inputs, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they could be used for velocity, as I mentioned on the gate mode. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. Another idea I had was, can you run it upside down? Because your fingers are over the top of the buttons here, and sometimes it's difficult to see the LEDs beneath your fingers, like particularly setting the scale mode as you're moving the thing. I mean, you could see this if I go into, what am I doing? Scale mode. You can see this from above. As my hand's like entirely in the way as I'm starting down here, because I want the root note to be there. As I'm moving along, the scale is changing. But because there's only 3 modes, it changes over here. There's a second mode, there's chromatic. But you can't see that because my hand is away. I can see this because I'm down here at the moment. But if I'm above it, I can't really see that without faffing around. So that's not necessarily ideal. Also, if I want to be playing it a little bit more, perhaps I want it at the bottom of my case, and perhaps if that was upside down, I wouldn't be then getting in the way of what I can see, and also the buttons and the LEDs and such like. So having this here perhaps is not ideal. I mean, it's ideal for some. I'm just suggesting that perhaps if it was the other way up, or you had the ability to run it the other way up, that might suit some people. That's all I'm saying. The text, of course, is impossibly hard to read. It's small. Difficult to see when you're trying to perform and see what's going on. But hey, you know, this is Eurorack, and that's kind of what we have to deal with. But otherwise, the feel of it, the buttons are simple. I really quite like the sort of the nakedness and minimalist of the look. That works for me fine. I don't have to have a very posh front panel on things in order to feel good about myself. I don't mind the raisedness of that. In fact, it makes them easier to find and easier to hit. There's a lot of great indication going on with the LEDs over here on the outputs, as well as the 3 lines of LEDs and stuff. It is very, very visually helpful in showing you what's going on, and I definitely approve of that sort of thing. I gigged with this at an EMOM last night, and it was completely solid. It completely did absolutely everything I wanted it to do, even if the rest of it that I was doing was complete rubbish. That really doing its job brilliantly, which is great, because what I'm trying to do with this particular case is I'm trying to create a permanent case, a case that I actually practice on, work at and get better, rather than having a case that is constantly changing with different modules all the time. This I want to be my performance case, and I'm really happy to have Caress of Stars take a place in there, you know, at least for now, as being a great way to sequence stuff. I mean, I've also got an octone in here, so I do still like the set a knob, turn a knob, set a step, that kind of sequencing. Yes, very, very much. I like to do that too. I've also got the Arp of Darkness in here because it's just a brilliant way to throw out a bunch of notes to something. So those are my favourite forms of sequencing, all tied into the one case at the moment. And the Caress of Stars, yeah, it definitely works. I mean, it reminds me of many things that along similar sorts of lines. For instance, the Neo Trinity from Bastel, you can sort of use a knob to dial in a sequence nice and quickly, which is a little bit like using the touch strip. I've also got the touch strip here, the quad strip from Sound Machines, which I use in a very similar way. I use it to play live, and then you can record those movements so it becomes a sequence, again on a touch strip, which is really, really great. There's the play fader, if you've seen that, that's got faders on it that you can use to create sequences. So there's lots of different ways of doing it, and the Caress of Stars is similar to those, but the fact that you're not moving a slider or a knob, so it's not a continuous line, you can play it a bit more like a keyboard. That, I think, is a definite advantage for picking out those melodies once you've sorted the range out and you have the resolution that you need for the numbers of octaves that you're trying to play. And I almost forgot to mention that it's also available with this rather natty little 1U case. Because I know you're thinking, oh, 1U, man, I don't have 1U in my case. That's a shame because it's a great little thing. Does that mean I'm going to have to get a new case? No, you see, you can get it with this. And it fits it a little perfectly. It's got its own little power supply. And the power here, the idea is that it piggybacks off what you've got plugged into your main case. It's got a little splitter, do you see? And that goes into your main case. So you don't even need to have an entirely new plug and power supply. You just put this alongside and you have it here. You have it here as a wibbly wobbly thing all by itself, separately to your case. Brilliant little, simple, lovely idea. So if you need it externally, then you can. So yeah, on the whole, I think it's just bloody marvellous. And that's going to be a bit of a keeper. I think if they let me keep it, I'll keep it in my case and I'll keep using it and playing with it. And I'm looking forward to more updates, particularly those save slots, which I think could make it quite special, because that recall feature is really nice. I mean, that is part of it that's really appealed to me, is how quick everything is, providing you're not tripping yourself up. The ability to clear a pattern really quick, throw something else in, let that run a couple of times, clear it, put something else in, really, really good. The ability to play over the top and then recall back to where you were, really good. Similarly, just to have something else completely go and build up something and then hit recall to take you back to something you'd already prepared. That's really nice. The quickness, you can layer up and add another channel and build things. You can do that brilliantly. I understand there's also going to be expanders for it. I don't know whether that means just running another one alongside it, which is possible. Could I fit 2 in here? More or less. Or perhaps more outputs, different outputs, CV outputs, who knows. But anyway, if you're interested, if this has piqued your interest in any way, then do head over to the Arcane Devices website, over to their Indiegogo page, where you can pre-order on an early bird price and snaffle yourself one. Thanks ever so much for Arcane Devices for sending this to me. It's much appreciated. And in the meantime, go make some tunes.